I'm Susan Gable. Today I'm going to show you how to grab data from an image and analyze it using ChatGPT. It's going to be really easy. Stick with me.
Someone in one of my groups on Facebook recently posted this particular image of breakfast offerings at their child's school. And looking at this and being very conscious about carbohydrates and the amount of sugar that I consume, and this particular group is focused on that as well. I took a look at this and I decided, you know what I really want to do? I would like to do an analysis of this, and I'm going to use ChatGPT to do it. So the first thing that I did was save this image as a JPEG, which you can do on Facebook by right clicking on the image and saving the image. So this is the JPEG that I saved from the group, and I'm going to show you how I used ChatGPT to do an analysis of this. Okay, so here we are in ChatGPT, and since I did already do this analysis, I'm not going to do it live. I'm just going to show you the chat that I created yesterday when I did this analysis. As you see up here, I'm using ChatGPT 4.0, and what I did was I uploaded this image. Down here at the bottom, you see this attach file, right? So you just attach, you click on that, and it will tell you, upload from your computer. And that's what I did. I uploaded the JPEG that I just showed you. And here it is. And I said, please turn this into a list by date of what children were given for breakfast. So that was the first thing we needed to do. We needed to pull the data off the JPEG and into a usable format. So then GPT went ahead and it gave me September 30th, and here's the options the kids had: October 1st, 2nd, 3rd, blah, 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 right? So we just can scroll through all these wonderful choices. No protein really whatsoever, you see here. There's some cheese. Okay, there's a little bit of protein. But that was the first thing. The first thing was to take the data from the image and turn it into something that we could work with. Now, once it did that, then the next prompt that I typed in was, can you provide me with the approximate carbohydrate amount for each day? Now, again, each day, it's for each breakfast, because that's what we're looking at here. We're just looking at breakfast. And then I said, assume children chose the lower carb options. Okay, so we're going to start out with that. So then what GPT did was it assigned a value, an approximate value of carbohydrates for each item. Now, I looked up some of these and they were in the ballpark, but I would obviously recommend, if you're doing this for something, that you go and verify each of the things that it has given you here. Like how much for the Pop-Tart, how much for the cereal, how much for the unsweetened small portion of yogurt. So it assigned the carb values. Then what it did was it took those assigned values and it calculated each day's breakfast worth of carbohydrates based on the assumption that the students were making really excellent choices and choosing the lower carb options. And so as you can see here, September 30th, it added together the cereal, the applesauce, the juice, the milk, how many carbohydrates for each, and what the total was. And again, it provided that for each of the days. Then at the bottom, it gave me a summary. This list contains a daily carbohydrate estimate, assuming the lowest carb options were selected, with values ranging from approximately 35 grams to 65 grams per day, depending on the choices. Okay, fantastic. Now I made another prompt. Now calculate it based on children choosing the higher carb options, right? So let's get a range. We went with kids making all the great decisions, which we know none of us, kids or adults, make the best options. And then let's go and do the upper range. So GPT went and had to, make some other assignments of how many carbs per of these items, which it did. And then it did the same thing and it gave me the daily totals if the children made the choices that were higher carbohydrates for each option. And then again, it gave me a summary that this is now 62 to 79 grams of carbohydrates per breakfast based on choosing the higher carbs. Then I asked it to format the data in a way that would be easier to use. Can you create a table that shows the grams of sugar each day with a column for kids choosing the lower carb options and a column for them choosing the higher carb options? This is one of the things that GPT is so great at, formatting data for us in a really easy way. And so here we have our table for each day, what the lower carb option average was and what the higher carb option was. Then I thought, you know what would be good? Let's actually turn this into actual grams of sugar. So I said, that's fantastic, but could you do what you did originally and come up with actual grams of sugar per serving, and then create the same type of table but actually showing grams of sugar instead of just carbs? And so then it went through again its assignment of assigning how many grams of sugar per item on the menu, and then it gave the lower sugar option and the higher sugar option, which is great. But the thing is, grams of sugar is sort of not as tangible to us. Like, okay, so what is grams of sugar? So I said, excellent. Now knowing that 4 grams of sugar equals a teaspoon, add new columns next to each gram calculation that also tells us how many teaspoons of sugar that is. And so then there is this other table that we've created that shows the teaspoons of sugar for the low sugar option, and I'm sorry, the grams of sugar for the low carb option and the teaspoons of sugar, and then the grams of sugar for the higher sugar option and the teaspoons of sugar for the higher option. And interestingly enough, I then asked it, what's the range of teaspoons of sugar? So the lower sugar options range between 4.25 teaspoons and 7.25 teaspoons of sugar per day. Now I asked, and then the higher one is between 9 and 12 teaspoons of sugar. Now this is just for their breakfast. Okay, they're getting fed lunch at school as well, and we can, at some point do a similar analysis to see how many carbs the kids are getting, how much sugar they're getting at lunch as well. But 12 teaspoons of sugar is a quarter of a cup of sugar. Now imagine just giving a kid, here's a quarter of a cup of sugar. We would never do that. We wonder why they can't sit still or why they fall asleep in class, because this is what we're feeding them. But the point of this is not nutrition and not school nutrition. The point of this is, how cool is GPT to do an analysis like this and to work with your data like this? It's a great tool.